In this chapter, we're going to look at how we can block out the base of our curtains. So the art director has requested 3 short curtains on each side of the windows and has provided this image for inspiration. At this stage, we have a good reference to understand the direction and the overall look of the curtains, and we could jump into Marvelous Designer straight away and start fiddling with garments. However, what would be very useful is to find some additional reference that would help us with the construction of the asset. For example, it's not clear what's going on here on top of the curtains. So I would go ahead and find some close-up images that would help me understand how the top of the curtains could be constructed. The top of the curtains could look like this. I would really love to have the rings on top. That would be a good opportunity to add a metallic or a wooden surface next to cloth to introduce complexity. So let's start by importing our reference meshes to the scene. I've extracted the surrounding meshes that will be used as a reference for the placement of our curtains. You can find them in the project files provided with this tutorial. I'm going to import the rods as an avatar. Go to File, Import, OBJ, and select the rods OBJ file. Set the scale to centimeters, and ignore the pop-up window. This is going to be our collision mesh. Now let's start by roughly drawing the full size of the curtain in its unfolded form. I'm going to use the rectangle tool. Something like this. The pattern might be a bit too high res at the moment, so I'm just going to quickly check the density. If you just select the spin tool over here, you'll be able to see the wireframe. I think this might be a bit too high res at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust the resolution. Select the pattern and increase the particle distance. That will lower the resolution of the garment. Alright? Now let's have a look at the reference. We need the curtains to be gathered and placed on the side of the wall. So I'm going to import the wall and the window pane reference to help me understand the length in its gathered stage. Go to File, Import, OBJ, and select the wall's reference file. Choose Load as Trim. Set the scale to centimeters. Choose Add and hit OK. Okay. I'm just going to change the color a little quick so that it's easier to see. All right. Now, I want to look at our reference and count the amount of folds. We can have a look down here where it's a bit more obvious. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say 8 pleats. Doesn't have to be exact. So pleat is simply a fold doubled back upon itself. If you take a look at the close-up here, you can see that in this case, a single pleat is formed by 1, 2, 3 bent lines. So if we want to create 8 pleats, we need to create 3 lines multiplied by 8, and that's going to be 24 lines in total. To quickly split the length into 24 lines, I'm going to first split the top line into 24 segments. Choose the Edit Pattern tool. Select the top edge here, right-click and choose Split. Go to Uniform Split and change the number of segments to 24. Alright, now I'm going to hit Shift-Z on my keyboard to display the length of the segments. So I have 10.44, and now I'm going to select the side edge here, right-click and choose Offset as internal line. In the distance parameter, I'm going to add 10.44. Set the number of offsets to 24. And there we go. It looks like the last line is overlapping with the edge here. Let's remove that. We don't need to have lines on top of the edges. Now I'm going to select this Pleats Fold tool and click at the beginning and at the end of the curtain. Just double-click on the end point to exit the tool. In the pop-up window, choose Accordion Pleats. What this will do is it's going to set the correct bending angles to each line. If you don't see the lines in the 3D window, you can toggle them here. Let's simulate and see what we have. I'm going to press the space bar on my keyboard to run the simulation. And as you can see, the gravity is pulling the garment down. Let's go ahead and turn the gravity off altogether. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo the simulation. Right-click on the canvas and choose Simulation Properties. Set the gravity parameter to 0. All right, that's much better. Now, what I'll need to do is I'll need to secure the top of the curtains in this position. To do that, I'm going to create an additional garment that would help us hold the fabric in place. Just going to go ahead and move this part aside a bit. So let's sketch down a shape that would represent our curtain's narrower circumference. The gathered curtain top length would be somewhere till here. Just going to move it a bit closer to the rod, like so. All right. By the way, it might help to change the gizmo to world coordinate style. Now, right-click and choose Freeze to make sure that this piece is always staying in place. Now, if we look at the reference, we want to leave these front folds free, but we want to secure all the back folds. Let's have a look at how we can do that. If you select one of our back folds here, notice how it's color-coded blue, and it has a bending angle of 360. The front folds are colored red, and they have a fold angle of 0. What I want to do is I want to secure all the back folds to this frozen chunk. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 back folds. So let's go ahead and create 11 lines on this placeholder garment. Select the side edge, right-click, and choose Offset as internal line. Set the number to 11 and decrease the distance till all the lines are inside the pattern. That should work. If you look at the reference, the top is quite free. The fastening is happening a bit lower. So let's try and fasten it from here to here. I'm going to click somewhere here, and that would add a mark point to help me determine where the curtains could be fastened. As you can see, the blue point appears both in 3D and 2D window to help us understand the correlation between the mesh and the 2D pattern. Go ahead and select the Add Point tool and just hover the mouse over the line near the blue dot, just so we can see the length of the top segment. In my case, it's about 3. Now, select the Edit Pattern tool, right-click the top edge and offset it by 3. And we only need one segment. All right. Next, select the new inner line. Right-click and choose Offset as internal line. We need to offset it by the width of the placeholder fabric. In my case, it's 15.71. Now, let's select both lines. Right-click and choose Cut and Sew. As you can see, this gave us this segment here that we can quickly connect to the placeholder chunk. Now, take the segment sewing tool and start connecting each internal line of the small chunk to the blue line of the big chunk. Make sure that your sewing is not reversed and it's nice and straight. Just going to go ahead and move these pieces closer together. And let's connect the rest of the lines. So again, we're connecting each internal line of the small piece with the blue line of the big piece. Let's see what we have. All right, everything looks right. And don't worry about this piece of the garment. It's not going to be exported from Marvelous Designer. Its only purpose is to help us to hold the garment in place. Now it's a good time to enable the gravity. I'm going to right-click on the canvas and choose Simulation Properties. Set the gravity parameter to minus 9,800. Let's have a look. That should work. Basically, our curtains are now constructed. Let's go ahead and add some resolution. They are quite low res at the moment. Select all the chunks and set the particle distance to a lower number. I'm going to go with 25. Let's have a look. Now, as you can see, these fold angles look way too sharp. Let's remove the fold angles completely by setting it to 180 degrees. I'm going to marquee select all the inner lines and set those to 180 degrees. That's better, but there's still not enough geometry to accommodate the curvature, so let's lower the particle distance even more. All right, much better. In our next chapter, we're going to have a look at how we can tweak the curtains to make them more realistic.